Hello, everyone. I'm Dwayne Bonifer in the Lindsey Wilson College Office of Public Relations, and this is The View from the Hill, the podcast of Lindsey Wilson College. Every week during the academic year, The View from the Hill features conversations with some of the people who help create the dynamic living learning environment that serves the educational needs of every Lindsey Wilson student every day. In this 20th edition of the 2025 View from the Hill podcast, we're going to look back on what was a very exciting as well as historic Memorial Day weekend for Lindsey Wilson. As it has been well documented, Lindsey Wilson will become Lindsey Wilson University on July 1st. But before the curtain comes down on the name of Lindsey Wilson College, there's still a lot going on and a lot to happen on the Hill. And certainly a lot happened over the recent Memorial Day weekend. On the campus of Indiana Wesleyan University up in Marion, Indiana, a pair of individual NAIA national championships were won at the 2025 NAIA Men's Outdoor Track and Field Championship. Lindsey Wilson Jr. Maxwell Woodwee captured the men's long jump title on May 22nd. Then the next day, fellow junior Lorenzo Luce won the men's triple jump. Lindsey Wilson has now won 8 individual national titles in track and field. Meanwhile, about 325 miles to the west, out on the Illinois prairie, the Lindsey Wilson men's golf team was making its own history. Friday, May 23rd, the Blue Raiders won the 2025 NAIA men's golf national title, which was played at TPC Deer Run in Silvis, Illinois, the site of the annual John Deere Classic. And down in the Cumberland Mountains, freshly minted 2025 Lindsey Wilson graduate Sophia Hunziger represented her alma mater in the 94th Kentucky Mountain Laurel Festival in Pineville, Kentucky. We're going to start this edition of the podcast by hearing first from the 7th and 8th track and field national champions in Lindsey Wilson history. Long jump champion Maxwell Woodwee said he took a simple approach to the national meet and focused on what mattered most.
Well, personally, I don't worry about anybody else. It's just me, my coaches, and my team. And I know my coaches got my back, my teammates got my back. So nobody pressures me. I'm not tense. It's just a regular day on the track.
Fellow national champ Lorenzo Luce said it was a surreal experience for him to win the gold.
To be a national champion, at first it felt unreal. It felt like, is this really happening? And then it was really almost like a movie, as coach said. Everyone was cheering and hyping me up and everything. It was so unreal. And it now starting to settle in. Yes, I'm really the national champion. I feel really good.
For first-year Lindsey Wilson track and field head coach Anthony Thompson, who is a 2018 Blue Raider graduate and a former track and field star, he hopes that winning national titles becomes part of the routine for his program.
I've always kind of been like a championship type of person. I make a lot of sacrifices throughout the year. I'm a tough coach. And that comes from just helping them understand that anything can happen on any given day. And I feel like if I wasn't a tough coach, we wouldn't have two national titles right here in just year one of me being director. It's not trying to sound arrogant or anything like that. I actually did expect this. I knew the young men and women that we were recruiting and bringing into this program. I felt that if I continued to give my all, they would continue to invest back in. And honestly, I felt like on any given day, I think we could have had probably more this past year. And that's not to try to toot any type of horn, but I understand the people that we invest in, and we treat them as people first. I've never tried to characterize them as how far they can jump or different things like that. We've always tried to take care of them as people first. And when they continue to, grow confidence within themselves and things like that, that's when I kind of felt like it was sealed.
And assistant coach Alexa DeHaven, who's a 2019 Lindsey Wilson graduate and also was a track and field standout as a Blue Raider, said the national championship meet was a full circle moment for her.
I guess it's a very full circle moment. It's just beautiful to witness, somebody that has worked so hard and to receive that recognition that they deserve of being a national champion. I think it's just a blessing to be around because, Lindsey Wilson, they have champions and everything of that nature. So it's just a great pleasure to just keep being around that success that we always knew that was there. We just had to just, find it and bring it back out. I think this is a prime example as to why LWC is family, is the fact that, Lindsey Wilson just feels like home. And I think that that when you have great people here and then we come back and we just want to continue to see Lindsey Wilson just keep growing, that's how we produce, those national champions, those All-Americans, just because, we want to continue to see Lindsey Wilson do great things. And like Coach Ant was saying, you have to start somewhere in order to come back and do more great things here. And I feel like Lindsey Wilson, bleeds that. They bleed that. You can always, come back home and still feel like family whenever you've gone away for a little bit of time, and then you can come back and just produce great results.
Chris Butler also competed for the Blue Raiders. The 2016 graduate played golf for 4 years at Lindsey Wilson, and that made it all the more special for him to be the head coach of the college's first golf team to win a national team title.
Yeah, I think for me especially, it's kind of a surreal feeling thinking back to, my college career started here back in 2012, graduated in 2016. I started as an assistant coach here, right after COVID. I met my wife here. We were married, we got married in the chapel, and, then took over the program a couple years ago. So it's very easy for me to look back and say how special Lindsey Wilson College is to me. And, a lot of the main focal points of my life have taken place here. So to be able to be a part of, a small part of this and just see our kids shine in that light, it's just a really great opportunity, for them, for me, just to be a part of. So it's a very special feeling. And I'm just so thankful for everything that this place has done for me.
When did you know this season that you had the type of team that could compete for a national championship?
Well, I think, if you would have asked me early on in the year, we've definitely had the pieces. I don't think any of our guys or coaches doubted that. Being around golf, though, you need a lot of things to really fall into place to be able to win a national championship, really to win an event in general, because, unlike a lot of other sports where, in a bracket format, you're only matched up against one team, we're playing against 29 other teams, every single time we went out there in the tournament. So there's some luck that's involved. I've always said that to my coaching friends and, people that I'm involved with. So, I still stand by that. It's without a doubt that there was some luck that went our way to be able to, beat that many other opponents. But yeah, talent-wise, we felt like this was a very deep team, that we had potential. You got to have some guys at the top of your lineup that are pretty explosive and can shoot low scores. And more importantly, from my experience, you want to have guys at the, back of your lineup that can be a very, very consistent, number for you. And I think that was one of the great things we had. We searched for a 5-man throughout the year, and by the time we got through the fall semester, Adam Hawthorne was extremely consistent for us, and he was in the national tournament, and really all of our guys were very consistent throughout the national tournament. But without sounding arrogant, I don't think it was a surprise to any of our team that, we were in that position, because again, the talent was there. It's just, having the ball bounce your way in the right week. Fortunately, we were able to have that happen.
You won the national championship on a course that was walked by Tiger Woods. Other great luminaries have played in the John Deere Classic there. What was it like the moment you realized you all had won a national title? Describe that moment and that feeling that you all had.
This last year has been so emotional, for me and our team, just everything that we've been through and that I've been through. My twin girls just turned, a year old on May 6th. Last year, I wasn't able to attend either of our national championships because me and my wife were, with our babies. So I think there was just so much emotion that was released in that moment of thinking of all the buildup that we've had, all the maturity that it took from our guys, to be able to really see a change in what our practices and team looks like. Because quite frankly, my time has shifted a little bit in how much I'm around and how much I want my phone to ring. And there was just a lot, in terms of that. I think all of that finally started to, I was able to unleash that and just really be in that moment. So there was a lot of tears, good tears, but just really thank you. I finally felt like I could breathe and relax. So it's just been such a phenomenal year, for myself, my family, and for these guys. And I've always said in coaching too, I don't ever want to do this if I don't feel like I can be an absolute positive impact on these kids, not only on the golf course, but, in everything that they do in life. So it's super important for me to focus on, being some sort of a role model parenting figure to these kids, because a lot of our players travel halfway across the world to be here. And if I just solely focus on their performance on the golf course, then I'm failing them as a human, and I'm failing their parents. So while it's great to win a national championship, I'm just so thankful that I get the opportunity to be there and have a positive impact on them. And I'm so thankful that they're in my lives and I get to work with them every day.
For 13 years, you've walked around this campus and you've seen Big Red, the nickname given to the NAI National Championship banner. Pretty special to be adding number 20 on campus.
Yeah, no, it's, again, whenever I think back to, coming to school here, Lindsey Wilson was a dominant force in the NAI, and we're still, in that same area within the NAI. So yeah, it's cool to be alongside the history of that. I think it's, more credit to, the administration and the staff that, that Willis Pooler has put together, President Lucky. Like, we've just got such a great community here on campus, and that's something that I've always fell in love with here. And I told our guys right after we won, actually at our dinner we were having, and I told them moving forward that as you get older, you really start to understand that, wins and losses, that stuff's going to happen. But if you can have your circle with really, really good people around you, then a lot of times you're going to set yourself up to be successful for life, and you're going to find yourself in a lot of great situations. And I've been so fortunate since I've been here to really feel like everybody that is around me, everybody's around my wife, everybody that's around my team, we just have such good people. So I mean, yeah, winning Big Red is great, but I think it's more of a testament to just the people that, as I mentioned, the higher ups of this place have put in stone to have here.
You're listening to the Lindsey Wilson View from the Hill podcast. I'm Dwayne Bonifer in the Lindsey Wilson Office of Public Relations. We're looking back on a very busy and a very successful Memorial Day weekend 2025 at Lindsey Wilson. While track and field and golf were making history in the Midwest, Lindsey Wilson 2025 graduate Sophia Hunzinger was representing her alma mater in the 94th Kentucky Mountain Laurel Festival in Pineville, Kentucky, the second oldest Kentucky festival behind the Kentucky Derby. Sophia, who's from Rosendale, Missouri, in northwestern part of that state, was escorted by fellow 2025 graduate Tyler Toll of Grand Junction, Colorado. Sophia said that representing Lindsey Wilson in the Kentucky Mountain Laurel Festival was the perfect way for her to cap off her Lindsey Wilson career.
Oh, it was amazing. It's nothing I ever expected. I've been thinking about coming to Mount Laurel for the last 4 years, so the fact that I got to do it as my final thing as a Blue Raider was just amazing.
What surprised you most, or what was something you didn't expect that you experienced here during your 3 days?
Probably the hospitality of the whole town. I just feel that the community was amazing, and it was awesome to see everyone's reaction to the 15 amazing girls that were here representing their colleges.
Now, you didn't grow up in Kentucky, so how did you come to hear about the Kentucky Mountain Laurel Festival and become interested in being a candidate in it?
I'd seen it on Facebook, and I have some friends that have previously been in it or have been a part of it growing up, and also my RD this year, Abby Vitito, was in it last year. She grew up in Harlan County, and I talked to her about it and became like, okay, let's keep doing this.
So one of the big things is that you don't know who your judges are, so you're constantly being evaluated at the events. What's that like?
It was interesting because you really didn't know if you were talking to a judge or if you were talking to just an ordinary person, even though the judges are ordinary people. I just tried to be myself. For sure, when we did like the mingles or like the receptions, Tyler, my escort, looked at me and said, just be yourself and talk like you always do. You're really good at it, because I love to talk, and I think it worked in my favor. Although I didn't get queen this year, I had a great experience and I met some awesome people.
So one of the more unique aspects at the ceremony is you have to do a curtsy. Did you know how to do a curtsy before? Did you learn how to do a curtsy? What are the secrets of pulling off a curtsy?
So I did not know how to do a curtsy. I had to watch many a YouTube video. I actually, last night before the coronation, I was watching YouTube videos. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure if it was the right thing. When it came down to it, I would recommend, if I throw out a recommendation, wear flats. I personally wore Hey Dudes, wearing big poofy ball gowns so no one will really see them. I did trip a little bit, but I don't think anybody noticed, and I still had a good time. It was something new, something interesting.
So talk a little bit about your last month as a Lindsey Wilson student. You were kind of all over the place. You graduated, you were in Michigan, and then you were in Southeast Kentucky. Take us through your last few weeks. It's been quite an adventure for you.
Yeah, so with being a student athlete at Lindsey, I was on the archery team. I also had a full-time job. So my last couple weeks were crazy, from working to classes to finals, making sure my family was going to make it in for graduation, and prepping for collegiate nationals in Michigan. And then finally being like, oh, Mount Laurel's in 2 weeks. I need to be ready for that. I had already bought all my outfits and all of my escorts outfits, so we were ready on that aspect. It was, oh my gosh, it's getting close. Do we have everything? And I started stressing out a little bit. And then right after graduation and after nationals, we moved to Ohio. And then so we went from Michigan to Ohio to southeastern Kentucky in a span of 4 or 3 days. And it was just a lot in one fell swoop.
Tyler, talk a little bit about what this experience was like for you growing up in Colorado out west. Imagine you didn't have anything like the Kentucky Mountain Laurel Festival.
Yeah, being a part of the Kentucky Mountain Laurel Festival is a new eye-opening experience. The culture's really come out about religion and everyone's personal experiences in the state of Kentucky. This has opened my eyes to how people live and how important it is to be a part of a family that cares and, is open to new things like this.
What did you enjoy most about your experience in the Mount Laurel Festival?
I think meeting new people is one of the big things. Of course, it's all about the girl. I'm here as an escort, so it's really just making sure that she's talking to the people that we think she needs to be talking to, and just telling, as she said, telling her to be herself and not worry too much, because in the end, it's just here for a fun experience.
Talk a little bit about how you all wound up at Lindsey Wilson College. You mentioned you remember the archery team. I imagine that's what attracted you to the college in the first place.
Yeah, so we actually started at a different school our freshman year, and into our sophomore year we were at the University of Pikeville. I was a social work major, but I really wanted a counseling background, so when I was looking and I found Lindsey Wilson, and I was like, well, they have human services and counseling. Let me look into that. And just the team atmosphere, our team atmosphere at Pikeville was great. But when it came down to it, the schooling and the finances was our ultimate decision to come to Columbia and Lindsey Wilson. And in the end, I'm glad we did it.
Talk about your experience at Lindsey Wilson. What was that like? What was it about it that you enjoyed so much?
It sounds cheesy, but when they say LWC is family, it's the truth. There's not a time at Lindsey Wilson that you felt unheard or you felt invisible. Just working around campus, I was a part of the student activities board, which was one community. I was Res Life, which was another community. I was on the archery team, and then I had my individual friends in class, outside of class, off the team, on the team, anything like that.
Tyler, what about you? What was your experience at Lindsey Wilson like?
I think one of the most important things that I felt, I was also a part of many of these organizations as well as Sophia, and one of the big things is being heard by professors. Our classes are small, and me being an accounting major, our classes are really small. Some of my classes had 5 people in it, and it's good to create connections with your professors so that if you do have a problem and you need to talk to a professor about something going on in class, they're there for you, and many of them put an effort to be there for you, and it's very nice to know that all these professors are willing to work with you throughout all of your struggles, even busy times, end of the semester, being in athletics and having to be gone for events, and professors are willing to work with you, and it's important that upcoming freshmen need to know, and anybody else that is coming to Lindsey Wilson.
Those are 2025 Lindsey Wilson graduates Sophia Hunzinger and Tyler Toll. They represented Lindsey Wilson at the 94th Kentucky Mountain Laurel Festival in Pineville, Kentucky. You also heard from the college's 3 latest national champions, which came in the sports of track and field and golf. And if you're keeping score at home, Lindsey Wilson now has a combined more than 120 individual and team national champions to its credit. You can read the stories about what happened during Memorial Day weekend in the news section of the Lindsey Wilson College website. And to get there, just point your browser to lindsey.edu/news. And that's going to do it for this 20th 50th edition of 2025's View from the Hill. We'll have a few more editions of the podcast in June. Then the View from the Hill will take a much-earned summer break. View from the Hill is produced by Shelby Burton. She's Lindsey Wilson's Assistant Director of Public Relations and Media Producer. You can tell us what you like or don't like about this podcast by firing off an email to us at news@lindsey.edu. Be sure to put podcast in the subject line. Also be sure to encourage your friends, family members, co-workers, and neighbors to subscribe to View from the Hill. They can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and the college's YouTube channel. Until our next edition, I'm Dwayne Bonifer in the Lindsey Wilson College Office of Public Relations. Thanks so much for listening. So long, everybody, and have a nice day.